Oh, look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? So we have an African American guy at one of the rallies a month ago.
The black church, the black businesses.
Black, African American. You know, people of colors.
Your role reserved for colored people.
Since we've been here in America, we've had all these different names for ourselves, either thrust upon us or ones we chose, from colored to Negro to Afro-American to black to African-American. You know, there's the problematic words of Spanish and Portuguese colonialism and their slave trade. So the blacks were called Negroes in both languages, so they were just called blacks. So we use the word Negro. If you say colored people, that's smacks of the 40s. Jesse Jackson proclaimed one day in the late 80s, we are now going to call ourselves African American. And a lot of people just thought, well, who were they to decide what we're going to call ourselves now? And it felt at first like a step backwards because black really was a big catch-all, but also so powerful.
I don't know how far back, and I don't know what country in Africa I'm from. I'm not an African American. I'm an American.
You're not even American. You're not even African American. You're not even American. You're not even African American.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all. I'm blacker than black, blacker than black, black, I'm blacker than black, yo, because I'm black, and I'm black.
Everything the white man taught you, you accepted. He taught you you were a black heathen, and you believed him. He taught you to worship a blonde, blue-eyed Jesus with white skin, and you believed him. He taught you that black was a curse, and you believed that.
So it's so-called Black History Month. You know, it's 2021. You know the old saying, you want to hide something from a Negro, put it in a book. Good book right here. Nature Knows No Color Line. J.A. Rogers. 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof. J. Rogers again. Dr. John L. Johnson. Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. Not just Africa. We was ruling over there too. But another white scholar gives truth about who the ancient and modern Britons. Rudolph R. Windsor, Babylon and Timbuktu. Let me see. The Hebrew Pharaohs of Egypt, another good book. This one I picked up recently. The World's Great Man of Color, Volume 1. Okay, Asia and Africa, historical figures before Hamashiach, including Aesop, Hannibal, which was a so-called black man, Cleopatra, and many others. Okay. Another good book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews. Okay. Your so-called entertainers, and you know, I'm not gonna touch on that too much. But this is a real deep book.
$200 billion, so it's big business. Some of you are still getting $1,000 a month, and a lot of people don't know this. And then people don't realize who brought the slaves to America. They were Jewish ships. They were Jewish ships. They were Jewish ships.
The Negro Question, The Missing Link. You know, the Black Europeans. Another old book, Creole New Orleans, Race and Americanization.
They were Jewish ships. They were Jewish ships. They were Jewish ships.
Medical Apartheid, The Dark History of the Medical Experimentations on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. So Black history is deeper than American history is deeper than 1619.
When you come to America and you talk to people about slavery, you can talk to black people about slavery, white people about slavery, and they'll give you all this history on slavery, and it only goes back to the 16th and the 17th century. And it only goes back to the 16th and the 17th century. And you're like, don't they teach you the history of slavery? Why? Ask the bloody question. Why are they only teaching you the history of slavery as far back as the 16th and the 17th century? Why are they only going that far back? Because they don't want you to go farther back than that, because then you'll actually find out the truth. But from the 16th and 17th century, we'll teach you about slavery. You've got to go further back, and you've got to understand and question, why do they do this throughout the whole of America in all the public schools? Why do they only go back as far as the 16th and the 17th century to talk about slavery? We've got to go further back than that.
It's deeper than 1492. So, I mean, you can go on TV and they'll play these little commercials. All they're going to do is focus on Martin Luther King, no disrespect to him, but a lot of his stuff been exposed. Or they'll talk about Malcolm X. They'll talk about Frederick Douglass. They'll talk about Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Muhammad Ali. Those are just the typical magical characters America only likes to talk about. And then the contributions here. They don't go beyond that, And then, of course, we have the Bible itself, which was nothing but people of color, black people, Negroes.
Because the whole idea of a Semite, Semites were people who lived in southwestern Asia, including northeast Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, who spoke Ugaritic, who spoke Ge'ez, who spoke Ethiopic, spoke Hebrew, who spoke Arabic. Those are our people. We are a Semitic people, therefore we cannot be anti-Semitic.
So you have this guy right here, Johann Blumenbach, 1752 through 1840. He was a naturalist, a psychologist, and an anthropologist. He's the one that categorized the 5 races, the Caucasian, Mongolian, Malayan, Ethiopian, and American. But, he was a race theorist, which means none of his theories have been proven to be fact, even to the simple fact that he categorizes the Caucasians under European, Middle Eastern, and Northern African origin. Now we know that the original people of the earth were people of color, of course, melanated people. They say the Caucasians came from the Caucasus Mountains, which I believe, okay? There's no such thing as a white race. There's no such thing as a black race, okay? Those are Indo-European terms. But his chart is all messed up, even with the black race and Ethiopians. Black is not just Africa. It's the whole world in itself. All the lands, all the continents, okay? People of color. But the European doctrine and, teachings, they would think that blacks are just all from one continent, which they are not. So you have all these books about black history or melanated people. Okay. Oh yeah, the Apocrypha as well. Let's see. The Valley of Dry Bones by Rudolph R. Windsor. The Ibos, Hebrew exiles from Israel. Amazing facts and revelations.
You are of the evil tribe, Bennett.
So I don't want to hear that the black man is from Ham. I mean, that Jewish fable has been debunked. Church lied to us. A lot of these lying pastors. Let me see. Oh yeah, Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 2, as well. Let's see. Oh yeah, the Incas. It's something along those lines, but you know the Inca tribes, the Tianos, the Mayans, Olmecs, Negro tribes here in America.
African people, descendants of Africa, were already here and quite possibly, most likely are, the people that we call Native Americans today.
Okay, but there were still slave ships and everything else like that. Like that part there wasn't made up.
The 13th tribe. I know this is not Black history, but then again, it exposes certain people. You know, I ain't gonna get too much into that either. Let me see. Raw religions from ancient history. A lot of our history's in here too, because the so-called Black experience. Another good book. What They Never Told You in History Class, Volume 1. Let me see. This is another good book. I ain't gonna get too much into that. Let me see. Oh, here's an old book. Picture History of Jewish Civilization. You know, you can just cross out the ish. It's just basically Hebrew civilization or Shemitic civilization. But Jerusalem, same thing. What was that? 12 tribes, 10 northern tribes. Here's what they don't really talk about, so-called Black History Month, the Arab slave trade.
Because Islam designed infernal slavery. And then the Ashkenazi Khazars, those who say they are Jews and are not, are the ones that marketed it. And the regal Negro nomads exiled from the kingdom of Judah were the main recipients of it at the hands of the indigenous Black Africans. Because you've got to understand, the regal class of the house of Judah came down from Israel and they came into the land of the Black Africans. And the Black Africans resented the regal class of the house of Judah in their land because they had laws, they had customs, they had civility, and they were a regal class of Negro that came down into Africa. And later on, it was the Ashkenazi, the Islamic slave traders as well, that then worked together with the indigenous Black Africans to enslave the regal house of Judah. This is what we've got to understand, but you've got to go back before the 16th century to understand the roots of it.
You know, I think it's still going on to today. Look at this. The Bantu people were taken by Arab slave traders from southeastern Africa and were sold in large numbers to customers in Egypt, Arabia, Persian Gulf, India, the Far East, Indian Ocean Islands, Ethiopia, Somalia, etc. Okay? That's where the Caucasians got that from. At least the Ashkenazis. They turned it into a business. And then you got of course, the famous Atlantic slave trade. You know. But I really don't adhere to millions of people came off of one ship. You know, it was in increments. You had the black Europeans that came over here during the war and the famine and the pestilence over there in Europe with King James, the Jacobites, and so forth. So it's a mixture, you know. That's really what my book is about. Those three coming together, those three phenotypes of Shemitic Negroes, and what we have here today, which is confusion of who we really are. But peace and shalom.